today is emblematic of what Apollo does 365 days out of the year. Not only the celebration of Black culture, but diasporic Black culture. And every time that we get an, yes, please, truly, the diaspora spans far and wide. And so anytime we also get an opportunity to celebrate roots from Jamaican culture, as a Yagi myself, I get even more excited. Yes, Jamaica represents. I see a shirt, so thank you. Always, she's like, yes, thank you for calling me out. I get so excited. But more importantly, with today celebrating a band who has taken the roots from a very small island, reggae, birthed from Jamaica, and brought it worldwide. And that band, of course, is Steel Pulse. 50 years. So the celebration today is done in partnership with City Winery, so we just want to shout them out. And also to shout out Mr. Victor Lewis, who is also a major partner with the Apollo, as always, Things Caribbean, and Caribbean Pulse, and Caribbean Radio, and his Caribbean Media. But this conversation is going to be led by one of the true voices that really is able to expand our minds around the history and legacy of not only Caribbean culture, but reggae music in specific, right? Our own ethnomusicologist from Sirius XM. Her radio show can be found, her voice can be heard all over Sirius XM, but specifically on Shaggy's Boombastic Radio. And I'd like to bring her out, who will be introducing the legendary band and leading us in the conversation, and that's Miss Pat McKay.
So generous, wow. I have to live up to all of that. It's so good to be here and just to build awareness in any way about a band that has had the conviction, the fortitude to stay together for 50 years. So thank you, Camilla, for having me, and also Maya and Darby for helping me out here today. And thank you all, because it's New York and you could do something else. But you chose to be here, and so we're going to keep it moving. And I'll just bring them out all the way from Birmingham, England. My brethren and yours, because I'm just a fan, I know you are too. Make some noise if you love Steel Pulse. David, Selwyn, I'm not. Main writer, lead vocalist for Steel Pulse, and Selwyn, and I'm not. This is Steel Pulse on 125th Street. Yes. Make yourselves comfortable. It's so amazing to have an opportunity to have you here in this way, because usually there's a different kind of prep that we're going to see Steel Pulse, and that's a whole different kind of thing. But hopefully this will be exciting enough to hold you, because you should be excited to have this chance, and so then I'll get you going right away. So if it's 50 years, even with my bad math, that's a good round number, so 1975.
Correct.
Yeah, wow. What were you doing in 1975? Only a few of us here could answer that. But yeah, so rural England, 1975, with that head, what was the reception like, even within people close to you? How did they feel about you sprouting one big dreadlock and then the rest of him, and having that look and claiming Rasta as well, in some place where that had to be kind of new in 75, David?
Well, first of all, greetings, New York, New York. Yes, a knife, a fork, and a bottle and a cork, according to Dillinger. All right, greetings here, Pat, as well. Great seeing you. Put it this way, in 1975, there was no dreadlocks growing as such. That came 3 years after, especially during the Bob Marley tour. The Bob Marley tour was the incentive, the catalyst, the whole essence of things that started right there. But when we started out as a band, reggae music was really coming out of Jamaica, and was not really recognized by the community as coming out from England. Although we had immediate local bands within England itself, like bands like Matumbi and the Cimarrons that often backed the reggae acts that came over from Jamaica, the reggae music coming from Britain was not really recognized to the fullness with our counterparts in the community.
How did you conquer and get that sound? Because it was a conqueration, if that's such a word. But you achieved it. You got that sound, that indescribable reggae thump that goes through you. You were legit, out the box with the 77 Handsworth Revolution album. That was in no way questionable or different, as some other reggae that's been introduced is greeted as different and not in a necessarily positive way. Yours was very similar, was very in line with what the expectation was of a reggae fan at that point, in terms of the rhythm and the content. How did you get inspired to do something like that, with that song?
Well, first of all of us here, myself, Selwyn, Amlak, and the original members, we all came from a Jamaican community, which were migrants from Jamaica after the war, and they sent for our siblings. Our siblings came with the latest form of music that was happening on the island at that time. So we very much grew with the reggae music, the culture, the Jamaican politics, and everything that was happening as far as us as a people. So it wasn't that like something that we had to study, and it was already inbred in us because of our family background. And then it was also, the community setting had us where there was sound systems. And these sound systems, those who are not familiar with sound systems, they were like what Afro-Americans would call speakeasies, but it was our form of entertaining ourselves in our black communities. And this kind of music was part of our, I would say, understanding of ourselves, understanding where we're coming from, because we're still not recognized as British, although we were born in Britain. So we attached ourselves to what's going on within the music, within the politics of the music on the island, and it basically went from there.
But going from there also helped redefine what reggae was in a very important way from all the way there in Birmingham, England, because those messages, though reggae was already aspirationally radical, to have songs about people of African descent that were mistreated or murdered in the case of Steve Biko, that wasn't really covered in any popular music, including Jamaica's, until after you sang about Steve Biko, and no one's ever sung, I'm not aware of another reggae song that included George Jackson, Black Panther, and civil rights hero. So, yeah, you grew up with it, but you helped to redefine it, and that's what's remarkable. And for that enlightenment, I just want to say thank you, because it meant a lot to me.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. What you gotta understand as well is that we were a tight network when it came to the black community within Britain, Handsworth, where we actually come from. And we had our own black bookshops that had us very much informed with what was going on in other parts of the world, is what I'm saying. And this is how we got to know about Steve Biko, because we weren't taught none of this at schools. We had to go out there and do that second half that has never been told scenario. We went out behind on our own esteem to sort out information that we thought to make us relevant as a people and make us have a goal and some kind of settings and bearings and a foundation for us to establish ourselves and to move forward as ultimately Africans. So we attached ourselves to everything that was there as far as information, and George Jackson was one of them, the Steve Biko, as you said. We were already in touch with the Malcolm X experience, Martin Luther King experience, Medgar Evers experience, and the person that really shook us up in the community was Muhammad Ali, believe it or not. He came to Birmingham quite often. You know, the Muhammad Ali Center, we named the center after him as well. So with all these activists that were at our doorstep from time to time, we were able to, you know, grow mentally and grow spiritually. As a matter of fact, where we are, 1965, 60 years ago this year, Malcolm X actually came to one of our local areas about a couple of miles from where we actually lived, 9 days before he was assassinated. So we were pretty much in tune with what was going on with the American experience.
Yeah, I have to say thanks again, because when you sing about people that are important, you know, in a life experience, just as impressive humans, it causes a curiosity. So, like, people are going to find out more about who these people are once they hear it in a song. And I was telling Selwyn earlier, with all that radicalism in the music, we still catch our grind on our wall in our club, listening to these heavy messages. We were still dancing with each other, you know, easily. It just happened to be the music that was made, and I just so appreciate that time, because we could get serious messages while we also enjoy ourselves. It was never ham-fisted or harsh in any way. It just happened to be excellent music that just happened to include consequential lyrics. So, Amlak, you're in an iteration of Steel Pulse that postdates the beginning of the band. What was it like to you to be a part of this movement, this you know, cultural importance? What was it like for you?
Well, you know, from the Windrush generation. My parents are Windrush generation, obviously. They are from Jamaica and over to Birmingham and Handsworth. You know, growing up in Handsworth, it's you know, it's an interesting time, an interesting place. We're talking about the music, and Rastafari really come to prominence amongst us as young people. You know, it was a serious time, you know, and just being a part of the whole thing, and actually now being a part of Steel Pulse. Right, these guys are older than me, by the way. Let's just get a couple of things clear. You know?
By a good 10 years.
Nine. Now I start to count the little bits in between, you know. But you know, in all reality, when you mentioned about the songs about Steve Biko and stuff, there were shops around and people in the community that had a lot of knowledge and a lot of information. Steel Pulse for me was one of the bands that had a lot of information. And I don't know if I told you guys, I had a scrapbook when I was younger and I had cutouts of these chaps. Yeah, so 9 years make a lot of difference when you're 10 years old and they're 19. So a big influence on me, you know, and I mean, I'm just very grateful to be a part of the experience. Born in Handsworth, growing in Handsworth, the Jamaican side, and being able to actually be here and around the world where the music that the lyrics that David wrote from many years ago, Pablo Messu was telling Ron also, right, which correlates with a lot of people's experiences around the world, and now I'm able to be a part of that, to see that. It was an interesting time, and actually still is.
That all started real interesting because you mentioned being part of Windrush. So Selwyn, explain the significance of that, of being a part of the Windrush generation, your parents anyway.
Well, as David said, all of our parents came to the UK in 1950s, some of the 1940s, and they were actually invited by the English government to come to the UK to help to build the country up after the Second World War. So, but what the government didn't tell them is that when they come to the UK, they're going to have to face certain harsh realities. For instance, my mum works as a nurse within an organisation called the National Health Service, which is like a free health service for the majority of working class inner city peoples. But I know that in a working environment, she was faced with things like coming onto a ward and certain patients wouldn't want to be helped or fed by a person that was black. But as kids, they shielded us from all this. Is when they was growing up, and they started to read and hear their experiences. When I realized what they were going through just to raise the family within England, and also when they can, it's not all the people that came from Jamaica and the Commonwealth country that actually stayed there. Some came and went straight back, but my parents decided to stay. So, as David said, when we were home, we were in a Jamaican household. So the food that we ate, the music that we heard, the customs that we were taught from my parents. When we went to school now, we were in the English environment. And going to school now is like, it's not all of the teachers that would identify with our experience as young black people growing up in England. You know what I mean? And then, and over time now, what's happened is that now some of these generation of vigorous people have the government now has actually said to some of these people that their citizenship is not worth anything, and some of them have actually been deported back to the countries and had to fight to come back to the UK. So everything is gone kind of full circle.
And complicated, I would imagine. Also, if you're coming there in that way, right, and you're born British subjects, I think they call people born in Jamaica before whatever we're calling independence now. Their birth certificates said that they're British subjects. But now here comes David as the main writer for this band that's projecting an image of Rastafari to people of your parents' age who made the sacrifices Selwyn was talking about just to be accepted. We're not talking about treated fairly, but just to be accepted, there were certain sacrifices made, including how they appeared and, the very Euro-style haircuts that, black people had at that time, and the clothing and all that they adapted, and here you come. So what was the reception of your adapting, not just the superficial appearance of Rasta, but the messages and all of that? Like within that generation, how did they respond?
Well, I would say that when our parents arrived, it was all about not rocking the boat. It's all about finding all the time and energy that God sent to keep on working. And we were pretty much kept in the dark as to the realities of what was going on in their workplaces. So we had to figure things out for ourselves. So we stumbled across Rastafari based on, like I said, the books, others coming from Jamaica, and what was going on politically in England itself, which was racism was at the threshold at that time. So during that time, our parents were afraid of us adapting to this type of philosophy, because as far as they're concerned, they left all that behind in Jamaica, and to know that it's on their doorstep, there was this worry that the same beatings that and the subject of Harlem pulling, as they would say in Jamaica, of us would happen how it was happening in Jamaica about 10, 20 years previous with the, the Coral Gardens massacre that took place on the island back in Montego Bay region, if you see what I'm saying. So that was the biggest fear our parents had, first of all. But when we started to go towards the music They were also apprehensive when we were coming to the United States for the first time doing songs like Ku Klux Klan. You know, my father said, yo!
Doing the song dressed as,
Yeah.
opening the tour dressed as, with that song. So it was a big deal.
It was a big deal that we're just doing this choreography as far as we're concerned. And I remember coming to the United States and on our way to the United States, my father said, where do you think you're going with that song? I said, what do you mean? He says, I'm telling you, kid you not. He said, if they kill their own president, one chance you got. That's what he said to me. And I said, look, Dad, we have to do what we have to do. But he supported us 100%. You know, we performed in his basement.
So, but Ku Klux Klan was an eye-opener, and just one in a catalog I consider one of the blackest catalogs in all of music. You know, there have been people labeled in that way, but it really is factual when it comes to Steel Pulse's body of work. Were there challenges in having that type of conviction?
Yes, there were challenges. Once we adapted ourselves to that style of music and subject matters, there was very little or no chance of getting any airplay, you know, and especially on British radio. And the reason why reggae is existing right now throughout Britain started off in the early 80s, where there was certain pirate stations that took place where guys decided to set things up in their own homes and start to broadcast the reggae music from their own homes, which was illegal. There were fines, oftentimes maybe heavy fines and imprisonment, things like that, just to have the music publicized within the black community itself. So that was one of the setbacks that was happening.
Government owned the radio station.
Yes, we had PCRL, which was our radio station. I'm sure Brixton had their version, and Manchester would have their own version. And it's all to do with someone setting up a radio cable station of some kind illegally in their own house or apartment and transmitting it to different parts of the community. So that's how it started. So another setback was once certain DJs had a chance, as black DJs, because during this period of time that Pat is talking about, there was times where the black DJs had a chance to get airplay, and it was like 1 hour a week on a Sunday. You see what I'm saying? So the last thing they wanted is to have their boats rocked with someone doing political messages that would get them off the air. Same for the nightclubs. The nightclubs were afraid of having the political music because they're saying it's going to bring Rasta, going to bring Rasta. If you bring Rasta, they're going to bring smoking. You're going to bring smoking. They're going to ban me from having my club. So these were kind of setbacks that were happening at the same time.
How did any of that open up or loosen up or begin to include you?
How did it include us?
How did it begin to?
Well, we used to venture in nightclubs where I remember performing somewhere, was it Leicester? Several years ago, where back in the heyday, and Leicester has a strong population of Trinidadians. Because that's how the British Islands sort of had us formulated, where there's different people from different parts of the Caribbean that actually based themselves in different cities. You see what I'm saying? So we got invited as a steel band, because a steel band, steel band, and they hired us. And when we start playing the reggae music, they go, what? And that was it. It's like they were expecting a steel band, and all of a sudden they're expecting some roots music, and which is a music that they're not accustomed to, because the Trinidadians have got soca and calypso. So these are little setbacks we had, within certain communities in different cities.
So when the Trinidad let you go in, did you actually play? And I hope you can understand everything I'm saying. It's just
exactly.
I want to talk. Okay, thanks.
But we did, but we had to ultimately stop after about 20 minutes, because that was not what they were expecting. Simple.
But you got the sound out.
Yes.
And the messages out. That's
Bit by
really
bit.
But you bring to mind, I don't even know how the band got the name Steel Pulse. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I thought the news would have gotten around by now. Yeah, we were named after a racehorse, right? In the 1970 Derby. Steel Pulse won that Derby. We don't back losers, we back winners. But the name originated from, coming from our bass player, the original bass player, Ronald. Ron used to back a lot of horses. If you're familiar with the Jamaican community in Britain, there's a lot of horse betting that takes place within all the black communities that have Jamaicans in it. A lot of people might have us down as being lazy, not going to work, but the Jamaicans honestly thought that money could be made by backing horses and getting a winner. So that's how Steel Pulse came out.
But you're the band leader, main writer. Were you a horseman? You were gambling horses too?
Once in a while I go in and try and make a bet. It's like you say you try potluck. It's like I was doing the pools. Pools was another thing that a lot of Jamaicans used to accustom themselves to. Pools was like the ticking off of football teams, where there's like 20 teams, 30 teams in each division. And each team was like, if it's a draw, then you've got a winner as far as if you check the right team having a draw, and if there's as much as about 10 teams that are having a draw that you've checked, you're a millionaire. So that's another thing that Jamaicans used to be into in a very strong way, doing the pools.
Story boss,
Yes.
David Hines know about gambling.
Yeah.
Interesting. But I'm going to talk about a couple of things. That first album and the Island Records relationship. But I'm noting that the album's name has the word revolutionary. Talk about the price of being a real revolutionary, because it's not all pretty to have that type of message so consistently, enlightening people, involving people in music in a different way than most other music does. What's been the price of that type of conviction?
You mean the title of the album or the experience?
Just I guess the satisfaction of being a real revolutionary, balanced with the challenges that presents. Did you know that it would sustain itself for 50 years? That you would have the strength to define revolution?
We had no idea. We had no farsight, incentive, or imagination. We just knew that we had something to say at that given moment in time. Marley came up with Trenchtown Rock. We thought it was in our interest to, put our small zone on the map. So that's how that came into being. It just so happened that Marley was saying having a good time. Music hits you, feel no pain. But the pain that we were feeling was the revolutionary pain, and we thought that was necessary to exercise our rights within the music, and titling the album after our experience and our liberty.
That's true. Because I remember one time when we started to explore the area of actually writing our own songs, and we felt compelled to write songs about issues that were affecting our community, that were close to our heart. And I remember one time I was talking to my dad, and he said to me at the time, this is around about 1976, he said I've been listening to the songs that you guys are writing, and I thought he was going to say that he disapproved. What he did say is that he can relate to what the songs that we're writing. But he said to me that we're gonna, it's a hard road that we're chosen, but if we really believe in what we're saying and doing and talking about, almost the time we will build we'll be building an audience, but we're going to get a hard fight along the way. So that was his way of showing me that, I was showing me that he supports what we're doing. And over time, that is that was has come to fruition. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So what you're saying is, he said you're doing the right thing, but you're going to face some things because you're doing the right thing. Interesting. Keep the mic on.
Once we believe in it over time, then we will build a true audience.
And you have built a worldwide community of fans. It's interesting that David, as a writer, recognizes Marley and referred to him in the way that he did just now. And the DJ here, was that you, Darby? Someone was playing Steel Pulse music, and they played Your House. And in that moment, I realized that there's a continuum as a fan between Dembele Fula Nemongre and Your House. Because it's that whole us and them thing, without mention of color, just more a class thing that confines earthlings, you know, of every color, gender, everything. So I can, as a fan, feel that you really did have an appreciation for those messages and wanted to build on them in a forward way. You know, it's like hunger's one thing, a house is another thing, you know, and the things that you were saying in that song just resonate so importantly in the experience of life. You know, I just want to, as a fan, because that's what I am, just say that.
Your House, actually, I didn't write that song. It was one of the other band members actually wrote that.
Who wrote it?
Fonso wrote that song.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, yes, beautiful song.
Are you still in touch with this band member,
I
songwriter?
call him and I send him messages every birthday.
Okay, good. Yeah,
Yes,
let's
we're
hope
still in touch.
all the Steel Pulse massive, because there's been a few iterations and losses even. So yeah, big up everyone that was ever a member of Steel Pulse, providing us with this enlightening work.
May I add back that when we evolved, there was also a revolution going on in every city throughout Britain, and what we had to say ran parallel with everything that was going on in other cities where there was strong black communities, if so I'm saying, so to speak. So by the time Handsworth Revolution came out as a song, as an entity, as an experience, everybody was already on top of the game, and within 3 years of us writing the album, the revolutionaries actually, the revolutions and the riots and the protesting actually came out 3 years. So it was like, I don't know, prophecy fulfilled, I don't know what it was, but it was something that happened, some magic in the air that, you know, Britain started to pay attention to all the setbacks it has been giving the minorities.
Yeah, and there was a parallel development of punk music at the time, and Bob Geldorf's Boomtown Rats were coming up. They had to be aware of you, and vice versa.
Yes.
So there was a revolution in the type of music that was being made generally, but still Steel Pulse up front. You don't have too many contemporaries that were saying the things that you were. I think of Aswad also. Did you have a relationship with Aswad?
Yeah, we still, yeah. I mean, well, Brinsley's no longer with the band now.
I know.
But we were still very much in touch with each other.
That's good. Big
Yeah,
up
and,
UK
you
reggae.
know, yes, bigger up, because Aswad has been one of the main forces when it comes to the British reggae. They really became a template. I mean, we came behind them, saw what they were doing, and just did it from our perspective. Aswad came from London, we came from the country, we came down to the city and did what we did, and had the maximum support with the punk rockers who were sharing the same ideology as us, which is being, you know, anti-establishment. So that's how we came into being, realistically, when it comes to the media, so to speak. We got the punks to thank. We forever feel indebted to the punk rock movement, because I've got this gut feeling that if the punk rock movement never existed, I don't think reggae music would have got so far in Britain.
Wow. And another important entity, I would say, was the label that signed Steel Pulse, importantly, Island Records.
Yeah.
Who you were not with for long, but talk about the Island Records experience. Selwyn, you could start if you want. I know you were part of the band when that was done.
Yeah.
Very
Very much so.
Because what happened is that Bernard Spear came to the UK for his first tour. I think it was around about 1977. We got the opportunity to open for Bernard Spear. As a matter of fact, Bernard Spear's backing band on that tour was Azwan. So there was a backing band. So some of the island executives were at the show. They saw our show and they were impressed with our delivery, with our delivery, with our energy, with our vibes, and with our militancy. So they signed us the next year, 1978. So that's when will be our first album with them, which was Handles Revolution. That was produced by Carl Peterson. So my first knowledge of Carl Peterson was Bonnie Weller's Black Art album. So it's music like that we're hearing, and we were checking the credits as far as musicians, as far as producers and stuff like that. So we mentioned to Island Records that this is the man that we want to produce us, that we got in touch with him. And when he met us for the first time and came to our rehearsals, he actually said to us that he's been waiting for years to work with a band like ourselves. So we were kind of naive as far as the whole workings of production mixing. So Carl took our songs, took our vibes, and he put his touch as far as an arranger, as far as a producer, as far as sonics, to make it palatable to the ears of the world.
Wow. Everything that each of these gentlemen says starts out with something so interesting. You mentioned Burning Spear, and just as the child of someone active in civil rights here, at the start of candlelight vigils, it was always one match, one candle, and then with that they would use it to light up the whole crowd. As a kid, I was fascinated with this aspect of, protest and all the silent vigils that were. So it sounds like Burning Spear was that first person with the match at his event where he had good taste and chose you to open for him. You were heard by someone that it would eventually all become a deal with Island Records. So you get the deal, you release the album, they love your revolutionary black asses. But what happens after that?
Well, let me rewind the whole thing
Okay,
a little
please.
bit, because Selwyn saying that Carl Medicine wanted to see us and all. He said something about waiting for a band his whole life like ourselves, but that happened after a while when he saw what we were really about, because Carl Peterson was an in-house producer for Island Records. Island Records has a couple of in-house producers, of which Carl Peterson was one, Jeffrey Chung was the other one, and someone else for something else. And Carl was known for producing bands like Emerson, Lake and Palmer. He was the engineer for Bob Marley, some of Bob Marley's music, and as Selwyn says, the Black Art Man. And when Carl was assigned to work with Steel Pulse, he was not in a hurry. So when he finally came on board, he admitted to us that it took so long to come because he thought we were a steel band or a heavy metal band with a name like Steel Pulse. So that's why it took all day to come. So anyway, once we got into the trenches and started to work with Carl, we approached the whole thing with a lot of self-indulgence, a lot of ignorance, because we were not familiar with recording with a professional producer in a professional studio in a professional environment. So the first few weeks of recording the Hands Up Revolution album was very rocky, where he was trying to introduce us to certain ideas and we weren't having it. We just weren't, because we just didn't want our sound to change, because what we knew, what we had was something that was absolutely unique. But it was just ourselves being ignorant. But there was one song that we did that made us decide to pay attention to Carl Peterson and his genius. We were working on Soundcheck, which was a song that we were jamming to as a song that we usually do on stage as a jam. He decided to give us little parts to play, and we didn't know what the hell we were playing. This is play this, and we're chicky chick. This is play that, we go boom boom boom. And we didn't know what the hell we were playing. All we know, we were just playing little snippets of this, little snippets of that, little snippets over there, here, there, and everywhere. So what is this guy doing? And one day he decided to flick all the buttons up. And when we heard Soundcheck, I said, you know something? We're gonna pay attention to this guy. You know, a little after that, we decided to voice the song, and that's how we got up. But initially, the whole experience with Carl Peterson was hostile, to say the least. And then the album became a success. We got Tribute to the Martyrs, which became the immediate album that came right after it, by Carl Peterson. By the third album now, Carl Peterson and the record label fell out. For what reasons, we don't know. But as a result, we weren't using Carl Peterson anymore. Did the third album, not that I'm throwing you from what you're trying to say.
No, I'm loving this. Aren't you loving this? Yeah.
We did the third album with Jeffrey Chung, who was not familiar with the band or the band's experience. Way out in some countryside, some farmhouse somewhere. So we lost the Carl Peterson experience, and by the time the end of the year, we got kicked off the label. So we spent a whole, it was October of 1980, we landed here in the United States. No label, no money, nothing. And we decided to tour. We met with Mr. Huey Lowe. He was the head of Island Records at the time. And he was telling us how many years he was trying to get the band into the country. And we decided we had a tremendous reception. We hit Boston, Chicago, all these places, Midwest, and along the Washington, D.C., these places along the East Coast, and came back for the second time in the winter of 1981. And by the summer of 1981, touring on and off in the United States, guess who we bumped into again? Carl Peterson in New York. And he told us all the woes and everything, what he was experiencing with the label, why he wasn't with us anymore, and we gave him our 2 cents of experience as well. And he said, you know what, this is what we're gonna do. We decided to get together, and we came out with 5 tracks that were demos. One of them was Blues Dance Ray, there was Rally Around the Flag, there was Find It Quick, there was Who's Responsible. There was about 5 tracks that we presented to Carl Peterson, and we came back with him to an island off the coast of Denmark, and we recorded the True Democracy album in 25 days. The rest is history.
Are you challenged by the longevity of your music? How even something like True Democracy as a phrase still applies? Because there's no such thing.
Yes.
What's that like as a songwriter to have work that stands up strong for as long as it has?
I'll tell you the truth, you know, Pat, there's times when tears come to my eyes when I play certain songs that we recorded many, many years ago, and I just so happen to don't play them anymore. Because I said, been there, done that, worn a t-shirt, move on. So, you know, sometimes when I listen back to Soldiers, you know, they'll be like, I'm welling up right now, telling it is, to be fair. And I also remember many years ago when Morgan Heritage covered Blues Dance Ray. And to know a band that's iconic as Morgan Heritage has been, you know, a very much strong force to recognize the efforts of Steel Pulse, it just brought tears to my eyes again. So yes, I do feel emotionally charged at times when I see people recognize our efforts.
There's lots of steel pulse lines that still apply with all of the discussion in this country about healthcare. It just comes to mind, give I back I witch doctor. We don't need then something that, not that we need a witch doctor, but I'm just saying, that's the extreme that your work goes through. I think it was the metaphor of a witch doctor, which comes with everything else in the village, with all its ancestral traditions. It just so happens to be the mention of a witch doctor.
But I gotta add to that, like I said, these chaps are like 9 years on me. And when I heard words like...
Stop bragging, I'm like...
No, I'm saying. In fact, there was a part halfway through your long talk just now, I was going to put my chair over there. No, but seriously, like, lyrics like, give I back I witch doctor, give I black eye black ruler. Like for me, in Hands Hurt, with the experience that we're going through, to hear these type of words, the strength that we got from these kind of words under the circumstances that we were living in, right? Because it really was a tough time. So when you hear these kind of lyrics, like Twinkle Brothers, since I threw the comb away, and Bunny Wailer talking about Black Heart Man, so the plight of the Rasta man, it's really, really, really powerful, really, really powerful. Going through the riots and such, these kind of lyrics that keep me going with all of what I experienced, so it's really, really, really powerful stuff.
Blues Dance Rate is like a whole day of deep thought, if you let it, because you set up the situation of just wanting to party, at the end of the work week, and then here comes this banging on the door and this big disruption when you were gathered peacefully, just having a good time, but you happen to be black, and the music happened to be too loud. And so those things happen, and that type of message still resonates. And again, not just on a racial level, but just on the class struggles that we go through as people sharing the earth. Your music is just so important to provide us with something that says, oh, he feels it too. I think that's one aspect of what's important about your work, is that it's so very relatable to so many of us.
With Blues Dance Raid, now that song, for you to have an understanding of the black community, like I said, the blues dance was like a speakeasy. It was really someone's home where they decide to have some kind of partying going on every weekend, which is a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday, or a very long weekend, which is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday. You see what I'm saying? And it could be a very long weekend when you're not working, then it becomes all day of the week. But obviously, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are the more vibrant days of that week. And that really started when we were not invited or not allowed to go into nightclubs that were happening in the city center. We've got a certain profile and a certain attire that we wear as Caribbean people, and it's like wearing a crown or a hat and particular types of shoes, clothes, and that was normally the excuse by the club owners within the city center itself to not let you, not allow you to come into this particular nightclub. So with that happening, us going to those places only to be rejected, we decided to form our own thing, our own little, we call it ghetto politics or ghetto entertainment, one for a better phrase. So that's how the blues dance derived, if you see what I'm saying. And it was our playing field, our environment to educate ourselves, because the songs coming from Burning Spear, Bob Marley, Wailing Souls, Inner Circle, Third World, Israel Vibration, Joseph Hill with Culture, all these ammunition type of music was firing down and coming through huge speakers, and we were getting ourselves educated week after week, based on the energy of these individuals I just mentioned.
What's a Joseph Hill education like? Because it's just such a heavy thought, having, had the distinct blessing and privilege of having conversations with Joseph, but he was the main songwriter for Culture, and you as the main songwriter for Steel Pulse, and you as an original musician, and both of you, do you remember meeting him and what you said, and what was that like?
We met Joseph a few times. One of the last times we met Joseph was in Ghana. And matter of fact, I think he passed away the same year, if my memory serves me. We were doing something with Rita Marley, you know, the Marley, is the Marley event that she has. Yes, she had Ethiopia, then she had Ghana. There was a time when Rita was trying to do the African Bob Marley events in different countries. So I think, if my memory serves me well, Ghana was one of them, and it was the last time we really saw and set eyes upon Joseph Hill. You know, just look, you know, you don't have Joseph is looking at you sometimes, because his eye is over there, and the other eye is over there. It's, hi Joseph, and it's that kind of thing. If you're familiar with Joseph.
But I used to play bass for Joseph.
Huh?
I used to play bass for Culture.
Yeah, right. He played
and
bass.
he's talking about one eye there and one eye there. One day we did a concert somewhere in Europe, and Joseph was full taking of some of the green stuff over there, you know, in great amounts. So he had quite a lot of this before the show, during the show, and by the end of the show, when you always goes into blessed is man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly. Last time they did the way of sinners, and the microphone dropped. So Kenneth and Albert, considerably shorter than Joseph, they kind of strung arms and pick him up on the stage, trying to drag him off the stage because he'd fainted. And so I was on the bass trying to figure out which way is he going, because you know, Joseph was a laugh a minute. And
respect, yeah, respect for Joseph, because that same event I'm telling you about, they had the Marley clan that was there, was Steel Pulse, and the reception that Joseph got in Ghana was like, whoa, you know, so yeah, you know, Africa loved Joseph Hill.
Yeah, there are just so few. You mentioned bands, and there are just so very few that have lasted any amount of time. And you mentioned some great ones like Third World as well. But also out of England is a great band that doesn't always get mentioned, and I have to mention UB40, because they were their own revolution as a mixed race band as well, and from the same era, just about, right? They're after Steel Pulse.
Yeah, they came a couple of years after.
Yeah.
Same city, we're North Birmingham, they're South Birmingham. And where I give UB40 credit more than anything else is that they did a lot of the cover versions. UB40 is known to cover a lot of, you know, ancient reggae artists of yesteryear. And the good thing about UB40 that they made sure that, you know, these artists that never seen any money, never saw any money from their efforts, you know, started to get, what we would say in Jamaica, eat some food.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have to give a big up for UB40 for making sure that the credits went to the artists that actually wrote the original songs.
Another Brit that contributed to reggae's awareness was Blondie, or Deborah Harry, who did John Holt and the Paragons' Tide is High. And he was very grateful for the fact that there was no court action or anything. He was just paid on time, in full, and able to, as his words I think to me were, it provided me with some few comforts I needed as I am aging. At that time he's no longer with us, but he was very grateful to it. It's nothing that should be taken for granted, because so many artists weren't compensated or had to go through a fight to be in any way compensated.
Well,
so it's to note that British artists, specifically the ones we've mentioned, were very fair.
You have Rico Rodriguez, who was had his own band, you know, that album called The Man from Warwicker.
Right.
And Rico had his horn section, and Rico was with Island Records as well. Time to time, we bumped into each other. You know, Rico's a very hard smoker. That's what I'm saying, and gets very agitated the moment he didn't have a spliff in his hand. But one day I bumped into Rico down the record label, and he said he's ever so happy. I said, why is that? Well, he teamed up with, which was, you had UB40, the Specials. So Rico started playing horns for the specials, and he was getting on in age. And only a few years after, he actually passed away. But I do remember him telling me that it's the first time in his entire career that he's ever seen any money in his pocket. So, you know, these are heart-rendering sound bites that we get from these ancient, old-school trailblazers.
Yeah, and you're not old school in any way. You're just a trailblazer. And my last text from a girlfriend was, "Is David Hines still hot? He looks so good." So I will report back to her. Yes. Never you mind. They heard. You heard me. But yeah, Steel Pulse tonight at the winery. I hope you will all also make it up there, because it's very nice of you to sit while we chat a bit, but we've also learned a lot about your story and
Thank you.
the journey of Steel Pulse and the lucky youngster on the end there.
I knew it, you know. Them are elder, you know. Yeah.
Stop saying no. So yes, Steel Pulse, good luck to you. Thank you, David and Selwyn and Amla.
And I also wanted to say thank you to you, the fans, because over the years, the amount of fans that come to me and said that Steel Pulse music has either saved their life, it's changed their life, it's elevated their life. So this is why we do what we do. So thank you to you, the fans.
And thank you, Camilla Forbes, Jamaican executive producer of the Apollo Theater, and also Maya Blake and Darby. Thank you. Thanks to the whole team here at the Victoria at the Apollo, and thank you for making time to be with us today. Thank you, Steel Pulse.
All right, thank you. Love you.
Bless.
May I add, all these questions, I was fingers and thumbs, nails knocking and teeth clattering. We had no idea what Papa was going to ask us this evening. No idea. So we didn't know which angle you were coming from at all.
But it was okay?
Fantastic.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I feel so blessed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question? Q&A. There's Q&A.
What's your question?
Go ahead.
I want to ask two questions. Are they self-taught musicians? Are they self-taught? And where have they been to that they never expected to get to in touring?
Basically, yeah, we were self-taught. I heard there was no Q&As, but we're going to allow you this one. We were self-taught. And when it comes to getting somewhere where we never dreamed of, there's been a number of places. Never thought we'd hit Africa. Never thought we'd have a reception in Jamaica the way we did when we went there for the very first time, things like that. Yeah, which is Sunsplash 1981. And never in a million years we'd ever think that we'd been invited to an inaugural ball as we did on the Bill Clinton inauguration back in 1993. Whoa! A blast from the past. How you doing, honey? Africa. 82. Nigeria. Love you.